Avoiding tough conversations doesn't make problems disappear. Sometimes we think that if we just bury our heads, by the time we lift back our heads, the problems would have been gone. No. Avoiding tough conversations doesn't make the problems disappear, it turns them into office horror stories.
Mm,
Because when you
mm.
don't address, these budding problems, they fester, they grow, and they literally grow horns.
I just had a picture of that in my head. It's just work. We're trying not to take it too seriously. But really, it is your career and you need to take ownership of it. Hi,
Hey,
Dickens.
hey, hey, how
How
are
you
you?
doing?
I'm good. I'm okay. I'm chill. You?
I can see that. I'm
Hmm.
okay, just hanging in there.
Nice, nice, nice,
Yeah.
nice. Cool.
I really have been enjoying our series.
I have as
Oh,
well.
it's
I have
been
as well.
I've learned a lot. Like even I have learned a lot. And even though I can say, oh yes, I've had a couple of years
Hmm.
managing teams.
Oh, nah.
No, but I've
It's
learned quite a number of
when it
things.
comes to being a manager and management, it's
Mm,
continuous learning. You never get
absolutely.
to a point where you figured out everything because you're always going to encounter people,
Yeah.
with different, behaviors and
Yeah.
mindsets and
Yeah.
whatnot. So
Yeah.
it's constant learning
It's
for sure.
constant, for sure, for sure.
And we've come to the last episode in this
Mm-hmm.
theme
I
or
wish it
this
didn't have to
series.
end,
I
but I'm sure we'll
wish,
talk about it again, though.
yeah. And I feel like there's some things we didn't cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something key that I hoped we would have covered was the biases, you know.
Yes. Yes.
But maybe at some point
Yeah.
we'll put it in somehow.
I'll just do a short recording of that and just maybe and put it
Right.
on our Instagram or something.
Okay, we
Yeah.
could do that.
Yeah.
Coming to the final episode in this theme or this series, we are discussing tough conversations. New managers, this is one of the pain points. I don't want to have the tough conversation. I'm not in the right frame of mind to have the tough conversation. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Yeah.
But one of the things that come with the job is having tough conversations,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So what's the science of tough conversations? Why do we hate them? And how do we make them less painful? I think the simple answer to this is no one wants to be the bad guy. Even even nuisances and I'm trying not to use a swear word, but I don't even assholes. um, Sometimes they don't want to come off as being the bad guy,
Yeah.
the bearer of bad news. And I think that's the number one reason why we shy away from those conversations. The second is we don't want to deal with the emotions that come with tough
Oh,
conversations,
those
right?
emotions are something.
Yes. They are a variety of emotions that
Mhm.
come, with having tough conversations, especially from the person receiving it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, most of us don't want to deal with that.
Mhm.
And so we'd rather avoid the conversation, we'd rather do the work ourselves. And I think that's the sort of like the psychology behind it, the reason
Mhm.
why most people don't want to have that conversation. Um, so, in terms of how to emotionally prepare yourself before delivering tough conversations, I always advise this, and it's going to be my advice to you. You have to be emotionally and physically prepared
Yeah.
to deliver tough feedback.
Mhm.
It's not something you wing. Delivering tough feedback and tough conversations or having tough conversations is not something you just like rolling to the
Mhm.
meeting. You have to be
Yeah.
mentally and
True.
physically prepared
True.
for it. So what do you do? And I am going to speak from like my personal experience. The first thing I do is I clarify my intentions. I remind myself why I'm giving the feedback to help the person grow, improve, and address an issue for greater good. When my intention is rooted in care and accountability, it keeps my emotions grounded.
Mm.
So, provided what that simply means from my notes is, provided I'm doing it for the right reasons, right? It's to help this person grow, it's to
Yeah.
help this person
Yeah.
improve.
Mm.
It is not my emotions running wild,
Mhm.
it is not, a bias I have against the person. So, that's the number one thing. Clarify your intentions. The number two thing or the second thing is separate facts from
Good.
feelings,
Okay.
right? Yes, you might have been frustrated with the person, disappointed by their work
Mm.
output or their behavior. Separate those feelings from the facts: disappointment,
Yeah,
frustration,
yeah.
irritation. But what are the facts? The facts are: one, poor quality of work;
Mm.
two, missed deadlines;
Mm.
three, bad reputation, team reputation because of that person's
Yeah,
work. Those are the
yeah.
facts. So remove your frustration and irritation and disappointment and just stick with the facts. The third is practice empathy. Tough conversations are tough. But ask yourself, if I was in this person's shoes, how do I want to receive feedback? Apply empathy. What words would I prefer? What tone would I prefer? What body language would I prefer if I were in the person's shoes? And then assume those. Choose your words carefully.
Mm.
Your tone, let it be measured and let it be sort of neutral. There's no need raising your voice. Your body language as well. Are you frowning? Are
Right,
you,
right.
um, do you have a poker face on? Are you, do you basically control your body
Mm.
language? The fourth thing is rehearse or write it down. It's okay to have a script that you're following.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The night before, rehearse it to your friend,
Mm.
to your partner, by
Mm.
yourself in front of a mirror, whatever,
Absolutely.
to your siblings, so that you have a controlled script that you're following. The next is expect a range of emotions or reactions when it comes to you giving people tough feedback or having tough conversations. Remember, we said the psychology behind it is that people don't want to deal with the emotions that come with it. So, one of the things to do is just expect that there will be a wide range of
Right, right.
reactions, and just prepare yourself for it. The next is ground yourself, do some deep breathing, pray, meditate. As if you're a Christian, just ask the Holy Spirit to take control
Yeah,
of that
yeah,
conversation, that
yeah.
it's not going to spiral out
Mm-hmm.
of control, and things are just going to remain respectful and things like that. But ground yourself. The last is set a positive tone, right? Even though you're giving like tough feedback, harsh news, whatever, try to set a positive tone for the conversation.
Mm. Mm.
All right.
Wow, that was, I love that. Thanks, Dickens, for
Mm-hmm.
sharing that. I think the other thing I would probably talk about is also in terms of giving feedback or providing feedback or giving feedback that lands with your team member, whoever you're sharing that feedback
Mm-hmm.
with. Um, and what's interesting, I was just brainstorming and doing some research on this as well. I did I came across another style of feedback which I'll share about now. I'm sure we've all heard of the sandwich approach, like where you start off with a positive feedback and just share um great things, compliments about the person, then you sort of share the not so where the meat of the feedback, so sort of like where what they need to do, what they don't, what needs to be improved and things like that. Then you sort of end again with like an appreciation note and all that. So think of a sandwich, it's the bread, meat, and then um
The
ends with
bread.
the bread
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. But I was something I was going to just another thing I had stumbled on while researching and just when we're planning for this was the radical candor approach to feedback.
Yeah.
And I did some digging. Yeah, what does this mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really around where you're giving feedback as it is, but with care and compassion.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, actually, this makes it makes a lot of sense because I've heard so many people talk about how they find the sandwich approach a bit inauthentic
Mm-hmm.
and they don't really get the feedback. Like, what are you saying? What am I
Mm-hmm.
exactly supposed to be doing here? Like, you're not
Yeah.
really telling me what I should be doing here.
Yeah.
But there are times where the sandwich approach would work.
Mm-hmm.
And again, also depends on the kind of team member you're giving that feedback to. So the onus is on you as a manager to really, know when to give what type of feedback. I think it will be based on the situation and the person involved, right? I think you're able to just, like you'd be able to create that balance and know when to give it feedback. But radical candor, I would find, if I was giving a feedback in a radical way or, candid and all of that, I would appreciate that even more over that
Yeah.
because I know exactly what I need to do. An example would be maybe, I Bukola, I I love your presentation was good, but I thought there were some gaps in these areas, and I think you can improve in these areas. For during the next presentation. Honestly, I won't be offended by that, but that's
Mm.
actually being radical. Radical can do. I know it. Okay, there were gaps and you pointed out the gaps to me. I
Yeah.
know what I need to improve on, and then the next time I take the feedback and I move on from there.
Yeah.
So I think it's just finding that balance. I think that would help people to. I feel it even helps build trust with your team
Mm-hmm.
members because you are being authentic. You care
Mm-hmm.
about them. You're not just coming to just like, oh, you're terrible at this, for example. Obviously, that's not great feedback. Or you're something that would then makes them feel less human. You don't want to make them feel less human. You still want to show empathy, and then be genuine about it, and not just then continue to, like, maybe bring down the self-worth or self-esteem in the way you provide that feedback. I think that's really important when you're giving feedback to to a team member. Now, you may ask us, what do you do when your feedback isn't taken well? Because you may do all of these great things
And
and it's not
yeah.
taken so well. Like,
Yeah.
and person just maybe even become so defensive and all that. I think it's okay, first of all. Like, people again have different reactions to how they receive feedback. I think take a moment, it will be, I think in that moment, whether it's on a call or it's in person, you may want to just pause it at that point. And
Mm.
I think the best thing to just step away. So either it's a
Mm-hmm.
call and, like, what, I understand, how this may feel for you, that why don't we, continue this conversation another time, and then you end the conversation there.
Mm.
And whether it's in person, you just take a moment to just what, let's just close it here. I see this is not really comfortable for you. Let's end the conversation and we'll visit on that time. And I think that's the first thing you should do when feedback isn't taken so well. I think just giving that time
Mm.
for the person to sort of have internalized the feedback and all everything that happened, and maybe reflected on it. Some of them actually will come back to you and even
Yeah.
apologize, like, okay, I probably overreacted. I get what you're saying now, and all that
Mm.
kind of stuff. But if that's also not maybe working, or that didn't happen, I think at that moment as well, you may want to, for example, in our organization, we have people we call coaches. So everyone is assigned a coach basically, and in that moment, so if you have that kind of structure, or maybe someone more senior, or maybe a mentor, and that person is close with or something, you may need to bring in that person. That also I found helps. So for example, like I said, my organization, speaking to the coach, right, and then have that conversation with the coach is able to better, would work with that team member to help them understand what the feedback is and chart a way forward. So you may also want to explore that, just bringing a kind of third party into that conversation to help that feedback land better. I
Mm.
think that would also greatly help.
Yeah.
um
Makes sense.
and of course, I think more importantly is also importance of timing. You want to give feedback, you want to give real-time feedback. And I think we mentioned in our last episode around making sure setting a cadence, a regular cadence for one-on-ones.
Yeah.
Because that's a great opportunity as well to give feedback.
Yeah.
You shouldn't wait till when, like, maybe something happened today and they are giving the feedback maybe a month later or 6 months later. The person can't even remember what they did. And you're not giving the person the opportunity to, then improve in
Mm-hmm.
that area. And then it now maybe shows up in their performance or things like that.
Yeah.
Feedback is a gift, and as a manager, it's the greatest gift you can give your team members, trust me. So make sure that you're giving it real time,
Mm-hmm.
and those one-on-ones are a great opportunity for you to be able to share that feedback, so it's still fresh and it can make improvement before the next task or whatever it is.
Yeah. I agree. Timely feedback is everything. Another model I think you should check out, we don't have the time to fully explore,
Right.
is the SBI model.
Okay, what's that?
SBI,
Yeah.
situation, behavior, impact.
Okay.
You state the situation that happened.
Mm-hmm.
You state the behavior that the
Right.
employee exhibited,
Yeah.
and then you state the impact he had.
That. Right.
The SBI model is, I think, like the number one feedback model that works, combined with radical candor, of course.
Yeah.
So you might want to check that out. It works professionally, personally, when you give feedback, stating the exact situation,
Right.
the behavior,
Yeah.
and the impact.
Yeah.
It breaks down. People are not defensive.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to embrace feedback better, and of course, like I said, in conjunction with radical candor.
Right. Right.
So moving on, when you have to let someone go as a manager, how do you do it without feeling like you are the devil, without feeling evil? We have something called the 3 C's: compassion, clarity, compliance.
Mm.
When you have to terminate someone's employment or let someone go, whether for cause or without cause, apply the three C's. Be compassionate, don't rush through, be clear, state the why,
Mm.
the transparency, even if it's without cause, just state that maybe for legal reasons we're having to do this without cause, blah, 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 and then be compliant. What are the statutory, like severance packages and whatnot? If you're in Canada, just understanding the provincial requirements for termination.
Right.
If you're in the US, understanding the requirements, whatever your labor law per country
Yeah.
is, just make sure that you are compliant. And just remembering, and we've said this before, when it comes to those statutory benefits, those are the minimum, right? So, for instance, if severance pay is, I don't know, maybe 5 days for every year worked, that is the minimum, meaning
Mm.
you can go above that,
Mm.
but not below
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, when having to let people go, deploy the three C's. Remember, compassion, clarity,
Yeah.
and compliance. Maintain professionalism while showing empathy. So you can't like say start hugging people. You're letting me go, but you're hugging me, and you're crying with me. No, unfortunately, you have to.
Ah.
You have to, comport yourself and
Yeah.
maintain
Yeah.
professionalism,
Yeah.
but still show empathy.
Mm.
And empathy can be shown through the words you use, your tone.
Mm.
These are the things that could portray empathy. So you always have to like maintain that professionalism. You can't, start talking bad about the employer as well, to say, it wasn't my decision, it was management.
Mhm.
Management is so terrible. They're letting go of people, yet they're buying cars, yet they're
Mm.
flying private jets. You can't, now assume that that place of familiarity. You
Right.
always have to, maintain that professionalism, but still show
Mhm.
empathy.
Mhm.
Um, as a new manager, how do you handle resignations, people resigning, and termination? It is your duty to ensure that exits are smooth
Yeah.
as a manager. Also, when people resign, as a manager, don't take it personally. Bukola is laughing anyway. I don't want to go into it, but don't take
You
it
just reminded me
personally.
of a couple of things.
Yeah, they don't become your enemy because
Yeah.
they've resigned. You
Yeah.
don't start treating them like
Mm.
scum or dirt because
Mm.
they've resigned. They put in their blood and sweat
Yes.
while they were in the
Mhm.
organization. They've served their notice period. Still treat them with dignity,
Exactly. Like,
with respect,
why are you taking it personal?
with like still be polite and friendly. There's no need to
Mm.
start treating them like they
Yeah.
like they're
Yeah.
outcast or they've become competition. How?
Mm.
So don't take it personally. People move on. People leave organizations for various reasons. Some people are relocating. Some people got better opportunities
Yeah.
that just aligns, the opportunity aligns with their career
Mhm.
better.
Mhm.
Some people get better pay. Some people is because they prefer hybrid to remote.
Yeah.
Like there are
Yeah.
various reasons. It doesn't have to be, something that starts eating at you. So make sure termination is smooth. Treat people with respect as they're leaving. Get information from them to improve on
Mhm.
in terms of the work style, the culture, and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I think the sort of wrapping this up, the important thing is treat people with dignity even while they're
Yeah.
exiting
Yeah.
the organization,
Yeah.
whether they resign or you're letting go of them. Treat people with dignity,
Yeah.
and just draw back to the points we gave when we talked about um, being emotionally prepared for tough feedback is you know understanding your intentions, right? And two, separating feelings from facts. Again, we know separation is tough, but separate feelings from
In fact,
facts.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's so. That's so. That's a lot. Like it's really so valuable in many valuable insights you provided there. I think something that just just to add to the last thing you mentioned around not taking it personal. Like when people leave or exit your organizations, they actually can become your greatest ambassadors for that
Mm-hmm.
organization or even for you as a manager.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's some opportunities that I've heard of so many where people they've gone to other places and they've recommended their manager who they
Mm.
feel I think this person is going to be so great for this role. Like, and you just got their big break from that.
Break, yeah.
So you don't want you really it's such a small world.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to just you don't let the last days be one that just
Mm.
erases the great things you've
Erases,
done.
yeah, yeah,
You don't want it to be. And
yeah.
trust me, like the recency effect, that's what they'll keep remembering.
Yes,
Like
yes,
that's unfortunately,
yeah.
so you don't want to be that person. I think the last thing to wrap up all of them, this what we're discussing today around having tough conversations would be when it comes to managing office politics and gossip.
Mm.
When do you intervene? And what do you do when you are the subject of the gossip?
Oof.
Yeah, I know that's ouch,
Wow.
but I think I'll share my 2 cents here. So the first question when do you intervene when office drama and politics and all of that kind of stuff? I think when it begins to impact team cohesion,
Mm.
um, dampen morale or affect performance, then you have to intervene. Because if you let it fester and just say, oh, like it's not your business or anything, like at the end of the day, you realize it's beginning to trickle down and it just
Mm.
continue. Like you see where people are having like different factions
Mm.
within your team, within just a small team, but they're different factions, they're different, and
Mm.
then you just realize that but you're not working together to achieve the same results and all of that. And it really does impact team performance, and you want to make sure that at that point you intervene so it doesn't become, it doesn't pose as a risk to your team and to the output of your team as well. And of course, if it's getting to getting way tougher and it's getting more, you may want to just escalate and escalate, to even probably your like for example, some organizations have like a risk compliance kind of team,
Yeah.
where they and we want to escalate to that point so that
Ethics and
ethics, yeah,
compliance.
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ethics and compliance. Very, very, very true. Now, on the flip side, when you are
Mm. The
when you are the
subject.
subject of the gossip,
Wow.
now I know that's not a good place to be in. But if it happens, I know some people have experienced this before. Stay calm. Don't panic.
Mm.
And don't go around now trying to clear your name. You know how that thing of
Mm.
I know they are saying it's about me, but that's not true. What happened was you don't need that.
Yeah.
You don't even need it.
Yeah.
Instead, you want to take on the position of maturity, and you want to
Mm.
be at the top of that conversation. Own the narrative, like control the narrative rather, and let your actions and your leadership actions, your work, let it be louder than those rumors or those gossip. Where it's like someone is saying something here and they're not, it's not matching what they're saying.
Mm.
Like you're looking for it, like, are you sure? Like that's how you controlling the narrative and just taking control of that entire space. And people cannot even match what they're hearing to what they're seeing because it's a completely different person they're seeing. So you want to make sure you're controlling the narrative.
Yeah.
And however, and I have it here that address it tactfully. If the gossip is harmful or really is borderline on your person, your values, core values, then you want to clear it.
Right.
And speak to the
Oh,
right
yes.
authority.
Yes.
Where it's like, I heard this, and this is now. I was going to, you have very frank conversation. I heard something up, going around me, and this has to do with my personality and my value, and I will not accept it. And it is so like you address it right there and then.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you have to go to the ethics team and make that complaint, or to your leader, but make sure you address it so it doesn't tarnish your brand and your image, whatsoever. So you want to make sure that make sure that you address it tactfully, especially when it has to do with your core values or things like that, or your brand and all of that. I think the last thing that would be, especially if you're not in HR and this happens, maybe you're dealing on that thing that's not HR, escalate to HR if it's becoming something that's beyond your control. Escalate to HR, and of course the HR team is well equipped to manage this kind of situations when they arise.
Yeah.
The
what do they call them? Something committee, disciplinary committee.
Yes.
Like it could be opened up as an incident to be dealt with. So definitely, if the gossip has become like dangerous and malicious, it isn't something that you ignore. It might be something you have to deal with.
Exactly.
To just cut it off, right, and deter people from treading in the direction
Yeah.
in future.
Yeah.
But yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's it, guys.
Yeah, and just wrapping up,
Yeah.
because this is the final
Mm-hmm.
episode in this series. Um, Feedback is a gift, like
Yeah.
Bukola said earlier. The ability to manage people is the greatest service,
Yeah.
right, to humanity, because it's sort of like a shepherd. I don't know if there's a perfect example, but you are stewarding and shepherding people. It's such an honor,
Mm.
but it's a tough job. It's a
It
tough
is.
job.
It is.
I would say don't shy away from it. Keep learning, keep trying to improve yourself. There's some people that will not like you, and that's okay.
Mm.
That's really
It's okay.
okay.
True.
People didn't
Mhm.
like Jesus, as fantastic as
As
he
it was.
was. He had haters. So
Oh.
don't get distracted by, oh, this person doesn't like me, or
Mm.
this person treats me
Mm.
somehow.
Mm.
Just focus on being a good person, focus on growing people,
Yeah.
focus on serving,
Yeah.
right? And as time goes on, you will reap the rewards, or you
Yeah.
just
True.
become, you would see how far you've grown,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
much of a better human you
Mhm.
are. And these are the things we should focus on.
Mhm.
There are people that their pride is, they look back and they look at all the people they have managed,
Yes.
how they
And where
have,
they are
where they
now.
are now,
I
and
feel that's the
that's,
hallmark of any leader.
yeah,
Oh my days. I
yeah,
feel that's the hallmark of any leader.
yeah,
True.
absolutely.
Mm.
So don't get distracted by naysayers and the things that aren't working, and maybe like difficult employees, because they exist. Some people are just like difficult. They're there to make your life hard. Ignore them. Focus on the people who understand what you're doing with
Yeah.
them as
Yeah.
their manager, and just keep improving. Remember, you don't know it all. As a
Yes.
manager, you do
Yes.
not know it all.
Yes.
No one knows it all, right? So I'll leave you with these words, and I wish you well in, as you go up the career
Yeah.
ladder. And we're here to help you, to handhold you, to give you tools.
Mm-hmm.
All the best.
All the best. All the best, guys. If you like this video, please share, like, subscribe, catch up on the previous episodes as well. I feel like you'll do yourself a disservice if you just watch one part and then skip the other one. I think the entire series,
Yeah.
I feel like Dickens and I poured our hearts into it.
Yeah.
So, and I know you find it useful. Until next time, guys, take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.